Yata for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder silence, light after Dharma rain.
Please stand for the chanting of the refuges. Please repeat the English translation after me. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please return now for another shorter period of meditation before our Dharma talk. Please follow along with the simple mindfulness practices. Being present moment to moment with this simple embodiment. Chin back, eyes back, everything counts. Learning as the body closes to exhale. And as the body opens to inhale. And going slow rather than too quickly, marinating in the embodiment. Right, please stretch your legs if you need to. Come forward as we listen to Dhammapada reading to us from chapter 18 of the Dhammapada. It's called Impurity. Could you bring your hands together in a kind of devotional way as you listen to these scripture lines, verses?
As a silversmith sifts dust from silver, remove your own impurities little by little. Or as iron is corroded by rust, your own mischief will consume you. Neglected, the sacred verses rust, for beauty rusts without use, and unrepaired the house falls into ruin, and the watch without vigilance fails. In this world and the next, there is impurity and impurity. When one lacks dignity, when one lacks generosity. But the greatest impurity is ignorance. Free yourself from it. Be pure.
Crows flew across this morning at sunrise. A few stopped in our trees and cawed, coming seemingly out of nowhere, leaving and going, seeming nowhere, somewhere. And at the same time, it's cold, and the sun shines at this very moment. Good morning, everyone, and welcome in from the 10 directions.
Good morning, Haji-san.
How are you doing? I missed seeing you eye to eye, nose to nose. Hope you're doing well. So, this talk this morning is going to go in a number of directions, probably around in circles. Starting out with this Dhammapada reading that Ma'um offered for us on impurity. Could I have the book, please? Thank you. So, as we've been reading this Dhammapada every morning for decades here, going through the book maybe once a year or so, we take it slowly. I've grown to really love some verses. And actually, these ones for this week have been particularly meaningful to me. So let's just look at them and a little more closely. As a silversmith sifts dust from silver, remove your own impurities, little by little. So, 3 things. A silversmith sifting dust from silver feels like an artist working, creating, imagining. And then in the sifting the dust out, then there's the little by little. And I resonate with little by little. The difference maybe being big by big, and that seems impossible in a certain way. And so taking up little by little seems to be really something within our possibility, at least mine. So if I was to have a name for our talk today, it would be little by little. Little by little becoming an artist of our lives. So then looking on, or as iron is corroded by rust, your own mischief will consume you. And I love the choice of mischief as a word. Mischief. Mischief is kind of a little fun. At least we think so in the first place. And it really refers to our impurities, our mischief with a little greed, a little hate, a little ignorance. Yeah. So we have to be careful, because if little by little we have a few mischiefs, we get into some trouble. It says your own mischief will consume you, eat you up. Neglected, the sacred verses rust, for beauty rusts without use, and unrepaired the house falls into ruin, and the watch without vigilance fails. So the process of always being with our art, enjoying it, taking care of it, watching, but just little by little. Yeah. It's interesting in the case of just simply our temple. If we little by little, every day, then it's very manageable to clean, to repair. But if we let those things go, it seems like a really big job. And it's the same with our own lives. If we, little by little, yeah. In this world and the next, there is impurity and impurity. When one lacks dignity, when another lacks generosity. So again, we're going back to those, what are called the three poisons, the mischief, where we're pushing away and being greedy, lacking generosity. And then where we're pulling toward us in a kind of greedy way. When we're not liking, instead of caring and loving. And when we're a little blind in ignorance. And then the last, but the greatest impurity is ignorance. Free yourself from it. Be pure. And the word ignorance comes from the Sanskrit word avidya, A-V-I-D-Y-A, avidya. And it means not seeing clearly, or it means also no light, darkness. So this is the greatest impurity of the three, says the Buddha through the Dhammapada. Not seeing clearly. When the watch fails, not seeing clearly. So when we are said to wake up, it's about waking from the sleep of not seeing clearly, of almost being like a zombie in our life. Yeah. So I feel very privileged to receive messages and letters, phone calls from people. And recently from a student of Buddhism in Chicago who says, I am wishing for the ability to surrender some of the relentless, grinding self-propulsion of my life and struggling to do so practically. I am wishing for the ability to surrender some of the relentless, grinding self-propulsion of my life and struggling to do so practically. any practical or impractical dharma would be appreciated. Can you relate to that? Like this person has a really good way with words. To surrender means let go of some of relentless, grinding self-propulsion. It's kind of like a personal definition of samsara, going around being pulled by the nose by some of our habitual patterns. And when we're being pulled by the nose, we're kind of dragging through the dirt. Yeah. And this person says, relief. Is there any relief? Yeah. And I said, thank you. I'm there too sometime. Can we talk directly? I like to hear your stories. I like to hear the little stories, the little by little of your life, because that's where transformation takes place. So I have a story. And it's one I often think of at this time of year. And you may have heard it before. Once I told it when I went out with Hayun and her family at the Moth Story Hour here in Ann Arbor. Yeah, it was a really scary, kind of crazy, wonderful occasion. And I think of it because at this time of year, when snow was here and cold was here, I went to Mexico for a little vacation. So the story is that back in November or October of the year before, when Venerable Samusunam, my teacher, used to call me every day to make sure everything was going all right at the temple, he said to me, I guess it was Sukha then, that my name was Sukha. You should go to Mexico for a vacation. And I said, no. I've got my 2 daughters to look after and the temple, and there's just so much going on. What's this word? I was in relentless, grinding self-propulsion. And I said, no, I just can't go to Mexico. And so he let it go. But a week later, he says, are you making plans to go to Mexico? And I said, well, no, I'm not going to Mexico. I've already said to you, I've got my daughters to look after, and there's lots going on at the temple. We just finished our chanting for world peace, and we were getting ready for the spring programs, and just keeping up our buildings. So he didn't say anything, but sure enough, about a week later, he asked again. And I responded again, and that kept going on until it was about the beginning of February, and he said, Sukha, have you made your reservations to go to Mexico yet? And I said, no, I haven't. And I gave the same answer, and he said, well, even so, please make your reservations. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I should go to Mexico. And so I, made arrangements to have the girls looked after, some of the time by their father, and then some by other people here in the Sangha, and found some people to look after the temple, and booked a flight. And the night before I was to leave, Sunam called me. And just like I was quite annoyed, actually, that I was going to Mexico. Because I'm almost, as everybody kind of knows, I like to be stuck in my own mud here. And so that night he said to me, Sukha, when you go to Mexico, I'd like you to, get a nice dress and put some lipstick on and find your life partner. And I said, what? I mean, who gets that kind of order from the teacher? And I just just finished the phone call and said, wow, whatever, That was like on top of not wanting to go in the first place. So anyway, off I went, and I took a lipstick from my daughter. They have makeup, dress-up makeup. Took that and flew to Puerto Vallarta and took a bus from the airport. And it's interesting to just go on a vacation all by yourself like that. I realized when I got, I know nobody here. I do not have one contact. I'm just really on my own. And I went by bus, and then a taxi dropped me off at a very quite humble little place a couple of blocks from the beach. And I arranged my room, and I arranged my blankets and my pillow on my bed so I could do a little daily meditation. And I got on my shorts and my blouse and went down to the beach, because I thought, well, I'll be spending a lot of time there, So while at the beach, I noticed there's quite a lot of people, and there's a lot of vendors, selling things, hats and jewelry, handmade jewelry, and bags and dresses, So, and they even carry them around to your place while you're on the beach to see if they can sell them to you. And I got a little, not having much that I usually wore besides my meditation clothes, different variations of them. And even my whole life, not being a shopper, my mom always made my clothes, and whenever I went to buy something, it was usually at a used place, or I took somebody to help me. So with all these things flashing by me on the beach, I couldn't decide what kind of a dress to get. There were some guys who had sort of made a little encampment nearby, and they would say hello. They were friendly. They were really having a good time. And I was by myself. So I'm looking, well, there are guys, maybe there's my life partner in that group. It's interesting how you start looking around when you've been given a mission. And so they came over, sometimes, and what's going on? And looks like you're looking to buy something. And I said, I'm looking to buy a dress. Oh, do you need some help? And I said, well, sure, I've actually, and so they chose for me, these two guys, this dress that says a skirt from the waist down and then kind of a wrap-around top. I've actually got it still. And so I paid for it, and I took it back to the place, and I tried to think, where am I going to wear this? But anyway, the guys were good again, and they were somebody's birthday, and they were having a party, and it wasn't the pandemic, and so they invited me over to the party. And so I put on my lipstick. It was strange. And then, for me, and then I got on that dress, and that was also strange for me. And their place was not so far from my place, so I went over there. It's all guys. And I learned at that party that Puerto Vallarta is just a destination vacation place for gay men. So I met lots of gay men, and they were so helpful, with, letting me come to parties and getting me dressed and giving me advice. I finally told them what I was about and trying to find my life partner, and they laughed. It wasn't them for sure. And so They arranged for me to go on this horseback riding. There was one person after another on a horse going up mountains and exploring. There was a restaurant at the top where we ate and came back. I went on a little cruise in the ocean, and I went to visit little museums and shops. And mostly, though, I spent time on the beach and going swimming and doing some regular things like early morning meditation, having breakfast at the same little kind of place where two Mexican, a couple were selling sort of things that looked familiar to me. Yeah. And it went like that, I was there for 10 days. And I actually had a couple of dates with straight men, too. The cruise was where I met this one guy. He didn't seem to be interested, and I wasn't really interested, except it was just nice to have someone to talk to. And so by the time I took the plane back, I really had not found my life partner. And I thought, well, Sunam's going to be asking. So went back to Detroit. I forget the details of how I got back to the temple and how the girls got back. And then, of course, because he always phoned me, Sunam phoned, and a little checkup, and how was my trip, and did you find your life partner? And I said, yes. And he said, oh, good, who is it? And I said, me. Yeah. I'll let you kind of figure that one out. Yesterday, I was talking to a friend who lives in New York with her 90-year-old husband. And I told her this story. And she said, wow, that's a really good story for me, Haju. Sometimes my husband, I look over at him and he's just fallen asleep. It happens often in the day. And sometimes I don't know whether he's died. So I go to him and I see that he's still breathing. And then he wakes up. He just had a vaccination, and of course he's old, so she thinks that she is soon going to be her life partner, her own. And she said, I reflect on it and I realize how important my practice is to being my own life partner. Yeah. It's not though you don't have any good relationships with other people and all of that, but at the end, we are really responsible for ourselves. So, with a little imagination, that can be quite a wonderful life. Anyway, think about it. I don't want to give away things that you might think of in terms of caring for yourself, your practice, all of that. Okay, now, this past week has really been a wonderful week, at least for me at the temple, because we've been doing the chanting for world peace. And chanting is a devotional practice. And maybe more than ever, and maybe I say that every year, oh, more than ever before, this feels more devotional than it used to. I think because gradually you get into things more deeply, it feels like, oh, I feel the effect of this practice more and more. And so I want, Wahom Sunja, we're going to do a little chanting of it later, but I wanted to just read to you something that Tongsan, one of our members, looked up in the dictionary. She's really good at looking things up. about devotion, because devotion has seemed to be what I would call my practice more and more these days. And here are some words from 1200. I think this is Latin, profound devotion, profound religious emotion, awe, reverence. From Old French, devotion, devotion or piety. And then to dedicate by a vow, to sacrifice oneself, to promise solemnly. And then from the late 14th century, an act of religious worship, a religious exercise, just often called devotions. In ancient Latin, act of consecrating by a vow, loyalty, fealty, allegiance. Some of those words are a little rubby against me, but some of them resonate with me. And devotions and promise are some of those. And I felt like doing the Wa-Um Sungjong chanting was a real devotional practice for me. It was a time that was more embodied, often using beads and often playing the moktak. Seemed to, and using sound, seemed to, well, I think Tongsang put it very well. She said that she really likes chanting practice much more than meditation, because in meditation she's always judging herself and doing everything wrong, at least according to her. And it's very tiresome. Whereas when she gets into devotional practice, which could include prostrations, it could include walking meditation, and informally, just a myriad of things, that judging mind just drops away. So I think, when we first think of Zen meditation, Zen comes from the word, it's a Japanese word, it comes from the word dhyana in Chinese. And in Sanskrit, I forget the word, it's maybe samadhi, but it means concentration. So people come, I think, to Zen Buddhism first because they want to meditate. But then we find out that there are lots of other practices, like chanting and like prostrations, and like working with scripture, like we did a little bit this morning with the Dhammapada, reflecting. I know that some of the students here at the temple really love to memorize scripture. And it's very meaningful devotional practice for them. Seeming by the practice of reciting, memorization, that we really touch into our heart mind. Yeah. Let's see where I am. Time to, okay. So I'm in the process right now, and it just started because I began to make a little list in my calendar of imagining and creating a period of little by little for myself. How to nurture myself well until our spring Yangmen Zhongjin, which starts at the beginning of April. So this is a regular thing to be done in Buddhism. Oftentimes there's 100 days of practice, 200 days of practice each year, where there's a specific focus to meditation, to living in silence, to undertaking some devotional practices. And I think it's the case in other religions too. I don't not know so much, but right now is Lent, I think, in Christianity. So people have choose a special practice to do. So I thought, well, I'm going to be ready for that retreat. Actually, if I think of it more broadly, I want to be just ready for my life, moment to moment. So I need to do more little by little. So I decided that starting in a couple of days, I'll choose a period. I think it's going to be about 35 days. And some of the things that I'm thinking about little by little is that we've been doing the Wa Om Sun Jung every day here, but that I could do it by myself around the bees 108 times a day. It feels good to have my hands, to be embodied like that. We chant the Great Compassion Dharani these 3 times in the morning after breakfast. It's for everybody. It's for all those who are suffering around the world, really. So I'm going to try to do it 5 times so that I have a couple of extra times. And then I'm going to enjoy sweeping. The other day, Marina and I were in the kitchen, and I was sweeping, and the sun was shining in on the kitchen floor. And oh my gosh, sweeping was more of a miracle to me than it had been ever before because of the sunshine. And Sunam used to always say, pay attention just like you do when sunshine graces your breakfast table. And anybody who knows, who's been sitting when the sun graces a situation you're in, when it's been a little cloudy elsewhere, that it's kind of like magic, and it gets our attention, and it feels very beautiful. So I decided that if I would I don't always have sunshine for sweeping, but that I would sweep with greater attention. Because there's always an opportunity to sweep our kitchen floor. Yeah. Another one is sink cleaning. When I brush my teeth, I spit out all the gunk, and it just gunks up my sink, and some days I don't clean it up. So I'm going to simply clean it better. I'm going to sanitize once a day. And one thing that I'd also like to do is just for fun keep a journal of these little things. I like to check off, and traditionally it's been a good thing to have something that we check off, to write a little poetry, because each day, each kind of weather, each kind of sky, each kind of moment just comes up with, for me, a poem. And lots of times I let it go by, but I'm not going to in this practice period, this little by little. And I'm going to choose a little scripture to read. It's something really beautiful. We read the Dhammapada, this version by Thomas Byron, every day. There's many versions, and you might choose something like that if you are designing a little by little practice period for yourself. Another thing we read is called This Little Pilgrim, and it's a novel, but it's based on the Avatamsaka Sutra, the last part of it, where the pilgrim, Sudana, as a small boy, goes around to meet over 30 different teachers. And it's a beautiful story. I think for me it's almost the part of the morning that I look forward to, because the adventures that he has as he explores all different kinds of teachers, everything from eagles to lepers to beggars to a boy that turns into a girl. You name it, there's every single thing in this Avatamsaka story, which is at the end, and which a Korean poet and writer by the name of Cohen wrote many years ago. When I was in Korea, I had a chance to meet him. I remember him, he had been in prison because he's a kind of social activist. So Wa Om Sunjung really comes from this Avatamsaka Sutra. And it's intimidating for most of us because it's so long and it's so dense, but it's also so beautiful. I just opened to a page this morning where it had a lot of wonderful gathas for us. When chewing on the toothstick, they should wish that all beings be harmonious and pure in mind, biting through all afflictions. When going to the toilet, they should wish that all beings reject greed, hatred, and delusion, and clean away sinful things. When going to wash thereafter, they should wish that all beings speedily go to their awakening. When washing off the body, they should wish that all beings be pure and harmonious and ultimately without defilement. So in my little list, I think I'm going to pick this Avatamsaka Sutra to just take a little bit each day. And I encourage you, if you were to start for yourself a little by little Lent or practice period, that you find something to read, just a little of it. One thing that Hayen does is that she reads the poetry of some of the old Zen masters in Korea, and she is delighted by these poems and often shares them with us. So to find something for yourself to treasure and to read and to reflect upon. So, and then to think of your version of cleaning the sink, sanitizing, sweeping, in this little by little process that's never apart from our everyday life. Okay, so now let's do some chanting of Wa Om Sunjung. And it's called Keto Chanting when you repeat the same thing over and over again. And I want to write it for you so that you, so it's, read it backwards. Wa, Wa. And then Om, like we know, Om. And then S-E-O-N-G. And then J-U-N-G. And, well, let me show this to you. You see, it's Wa, Om, Sung, Jung. And you know, we put it in the e-bulletin that we were going to chant Wa Om Sung Jung. And in response to what we put in the e-bulletin, a professor of Buddhist studies who used to live here and teach at the University of Michigan and now returned to Korea to teach Buddhism there, Unsu Cho, wrote, "Dear Hajju Sunam, I just noticed in your latest newsletter," which makes me happy to know somebody in Korea is reading our newsletter. "I just noticed in your latest newsletter that the chanting your Sangha will perform soon is spelled Wa Om Sungjung, which I thought might be a misspelling of Wa Om Sungjung." So she actually corrected. I had spelled it S-O-N-G and then J-E-O-N-G. And I thought, isn't that wonderful to get a little correction all the way from Korea? I was really happy to hear from her too. She said, the literal reading is this word sung means sacred. And this word jung means community. And she said that the whole thing together is well expressed. She said, and your rendition of the phrase, as may harmony prevail, is an excellent translation of the phrase. And when we are talking about harmony prevailing, it's among all the people that Sudana met all kinds of, every strata of society met and found people who would be his teachers. And then the rest of the Avatamsaka, where the Waom Sungjung is from, is about all the bodhisattvas and all the Buddhas and all their names. So the sacred community is all of us. And when we chant Waom Sungjung, it's about may harmony prevail in our sacred community. To me, that's very devotional and heartfelt. It helps me to really want to make the sounds. So let's just have a little. Time has gone by very quickly, and it's almost time for announcements. But we'll just go through Waom Sungjung maybe 10 or 12 times. Okay? And bring your hands to Hapchang. If you have beads, beads help. Or if you have a moktak, you can play the moktak. I'm going to play the moktak. In this kind of thing, every little one counts. So if you think you just don't have much time, so you won't do it in not so much time. To find the end, it's going to be so long. There's the spirit of little by little was given to me and to us many years ago by Venerable San Musunim when he said, as you are finding, in my words, your Buddha nature and the force being with you as you learn to be your own life partner. He said, over and over again, and over again, and once again, fresh in this very moment, practice and you shine. It's the light of awakening. So over and over again, and once again, fresh in each very moment, practice and you shine. May it be so. Okay, so some announcements now.
Okay. Thank you, Ajahn Sunim. Right now at the temple, one of the things that we have, as Haji Sunim talked about, increasing our practice together, increasing our devotional practice, that we would really encourage you to join us with is the Wednesday evening sitting. It is a sitting that starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and it is a meditation sitting followed by some chanting like we did today, maybe different chanting. And then we have a Dharma discussion with a topic from this, a line from the Song of Meditation. And it's a really nourishing group for those of us who join each week. So we would encourage you, especially when you're feeling alone and out there with your practice, to come join us and be a part of the Wednesday evening sitting. If you'd like more information about it, you can contact us at Arbor Zen Temple at gmail.com if you have questions, or you can call us at 734-548-0. I'm sorry, I'm giving you the wrong number. 734-761-6520. I almost gave you my home phone number, which I'd be happy to do too, but it wouldn't do you any good. And then we are having probably about 4 weeks another meditation. We just have a meditation class starting, so we will be starting another in about a month. And then, as Haji Sunim mentioned, in early April, we're going to be having a lengthy retreat called Yongmeng Junction. And so, leaping like a tiger, is it practicing like a...
No, leaping.
Leaping like a tiger.
Sitting.
While sitting, yes. And so that's going to be coming up, and we'll have more information for you in future services and, of course, the e-bulletin. Lastly, we don't want to leave you without thanking you for all your support of the temple, because everything you do, everything we all do is interconnected. So your kind contributions to the temple help it to be maintained in this period where we're not able to get together physically. So you can continue to hear Dharma talks like we hear today and other Dharma activities. So thank you again for your contributions. Back to Haju for the 4 great vows.
Yeah, and if you have a chance, and just to write what you think of this, your being your own life partner is about. So please repeat after me. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
Little by little.
Little by little.
Yeah. Have a very good day wherever you are, and those of you in Texas, may you keep warm and safe and well. We're thinking of you, as well as people who are experiencing climate change all around the world.